So, can I introduce Lambros, and thank you, Lambros, for presenting to us. Don't know how much time you need.
Well, I think that we can have a total of half an hour, and then we can have Q&A, right? That is one of the reasons I'm here today, is to see how we can work together, actually, in fun projects.
Right, we'll certainly leave enough space for that. So, up to you.
All right, great, thank you. Thanks for the invitation. Technical issue, by the way, I called the technical guys, Jordan and Lee, they don't have a clue. We have to ring the up for please. So I'll just go on. I will not be moving a lot. I move a lot when I talk, but I'll stay here because we have the mic and it's good for the recording as well. That's okay. Thank you. So, I'm Lambros. It sounds Greek because I'm Greek. You can remember them as Lamb, named Ross. You don't see that often, so that's a way to remember my name. I'm an associate professor of social psychology in ESP, we're neighbors actually, and since 2008, which is 11 years away, I've been doing funded research on the psychological, social and psychological determinants of doping behavior and other sport integrity issues like match fixing. Mostly what I'm trying to find out is the reasons, motivations, self-regulation, self-determination, achievement goals, everything that might be related to the onset of doping behavior, maintenance of doping behavior, or why some athletes decide to be clean, and the same principles, whether they apply theoretical models in coaches and the athletes entourage. So we're taking a holistic approach into the people who might be involved in doping and sport integrity, and trying to understand those who are clean, why they stay clean, those who are not clean, how do they decide to make the move and shift into the dark side. Another area we're working on is the role of nutritional supplements in doping behavior, both in elite and in recreational sport. So when we started working in high-performing athlete situations and contexts and with elite athletes really, then we moved into recreational sport as well, where we found unfortunately that doping is a bigger epidemic and with more public health and societal consequences than we thought. So it's a bigger problem outside elite sport actually. In the gym, it's more dangerous than in organized elite sport. Then we moved over the last 5 years into understanding willingness to intervene and do something about doping behavior and other issues of sport integrity, like match fixing or bad governance and corruption, like whistleblowing. So what are the drivers of whistleblowing behavior? Who is willing to blow the whistle and say, we have an anti-doping rule violation in our team, athletes, coaches, what is the interplay, what are the complex social dynamics that are involved there? And the reason why we're doing this kind of psychological research on these issues is that we want to inform interventions and CPD or any kind of education initiatives, continuing professional development, such as CPD, so of course, to promote clean sport education, or to provide services in the area of evaluating the effectiveness of interventions. But I will get to that later on. So my expertise over the last 11 years, I've completed, actually now it's 14, projects funded by the World Doping Agency, International Olympics Committee, and the Erasmus Plus Sport. We have more than 30 papers, chapters. We written this book 4 years ago, The Psychology of Doping in Sport, trying to summarize the evidence around it. And since I've been in Hallam the last 4.5 years, we attracted more than £3.5 million in research from these areas, and we carry on this trajectory. We were awarded a new project by the World Doping Agency last week. We collaborate closely with national and regional anti-doping organizations. This is what NADO stands for. We work with the INADO, which is the Institute of National Anti-Doping Organizations across the globe. It's an umbrella organization representing more than 45 anti-doping organizations across the globe. And it's one of the things that make you famous. I'm just bragging about myself here, right? To be honest with you, one of the reasons that I was motivated to go there is that I have experience. That was my coach back in the mid-90s and 80s. That was my second coach. That was the guy, I grew up next to his gym actually, back in Greece. And this is the substance that I got to use, because one of them actually told me if you use that, you will achieve your sporting goals, much faster. It's DHEA, dihydrohydrogensterone, which back in 1996 that I used it was a nutritional supplement. 3 years later, we have the birth of the World Doping Agency, the first issue of the World Doping Agency code with the list of prohibited substances, and there it is, prohibited at all times. Right? So I was using it. 2 years later, it was a banned substance. For a few years, it was still a nutritional supplement. And the only reason I found out that this was a problematic substance is that I went to the doctors because I had regular health checks, and they said, your liver enzymes are up. What are you taking? Are you injured? I said, no. And I just showed them what I was taking and said, this is a pro-hormone, actually. It's a steroid. You shouldn't be taking those things. We gave it to you once. My coach. Right? So that's the experiential learning. That's the thing. Motivated me to start looking at these issues. One of the things. So what is sport integrity? Because my lecture today has to do with sport integrity and how we empower coaches to be involved actively in promoting the integrity and values of sport. And this is what we get from the International Olympics Committee. Actually, it's every effort that, if we're coaches, every effort that we put into sustaining, preserving the spirit of sport, fair play values, playing by the rules, and safeguarding the athletes, actually. Not in terms of their physical and mental health, but also their moral self, right? The values of sport, why they're doing it, the positive dimensions of character building aspects of sport, the principles of good governance, and so forth. But we have increasing evidence of coaches being involved actively in threats to sport integrity. The most notable ones is doping and match fixing. So the European Union, the International Olympics Committee, World Doping Agency, although it's WADA against doping, they're not talking about match fixing as well, because they see them as related. These are the two main forms of breaching integrity in the sport. Good governance is a protective factor, and corruption is what actually underlies the genesis of phenomena like doping and match fixing. So, reality check, how can we apply the principles of sport integrity when we live in a society and when we have sports where the motto is faster, higher, stronger? This is the challenge. And, in developing the project I'm presenting today, I'm very excited talking to you guys, and I forgot to mention that I'm presenting you a specific project today, one of the Erasmus projects that we work on. Specifically, this one I think is important. I want to present that one today because it has been co-developed with coaches. We work with coaches from 6 different countries. We work with the International Council of Coaching Excellence, so trying to have a more global understanding of how coaches perceive those issues and what it means in daily practice to really implement sport integrity in their training, continuing professional development, or even their preparation when they're studying for undergraduate or postgraduate qualifications in coaching. So how can we really implement sport integrity in today's society? So this is the modern coach. It comes from different studies around the coaching profession. We know it has become increasingly complex over the last couple of decades. I would say even more so after 2000, because it has to do with being able to update your knowledge, update your skills, new training methods, and at the same time, increasing demand to preserve things like sport integrity. At a personal level, as a coach, but also as ambassadors, role models for sport integrity to their athletes and to other fellow colleagues, other professionals. At the same time, coaches increasingly over the last decades, they're involved in match fixing, poor governance, corruption, and doping. As I said again, corruption could be seen as the umbrella where we have match fixing and doping, which might be a result of poor governance in sport. So it is an issue that has to do with their professionalism in a way, how coaches preserve sport integrity. And what we also know is that coaches, they really play a role in preserving sport integrity. They really play a role in promoting clean sport or educating their athletes against issues like match fixing, for instance. And there is evidence for that. And there is evidence over the last 5-6 years. The World Doping Agency knows that. There has been a change in the approach that they're using to rectify the issue of doping in the sport. It used to be detection and punishment, so there was a lot of investment in new analytic methods, detection methods, blood analysis, urine analysis. Now they're talking about education increasingly, and they invest more money in it. Not just the World Doping Agency, but other funding bodies and sport governing bodies as well. And you'll see here in the next slide that the athlete's entourage, and when you see that, actually they refer to coaches, not just the physio guys or people of the team. Mostly they refer to the coaches. So what stresses the importance of education? Poland, a month ago, coaches in the spotlight. Right? Coaches are crucial to anti-doping attitudes amongst athletes. We have evidence. This is the revised anti-doping code. You will see there that coaches, if coaches have athletes who are using banned substances, they have responsibility, shared responsibility. Even if they say they didn't know anything, well, it's your problem. It's your responsibility to make sure that your athletes are clean and they're abide by the rules of clean sport and anti-doping. And this is one of the ways UK Anti-Doping tries to address the issue. They have built a special program focusing on coaches, and they have an e-learning course as well, free of charge, and an application, download your mobile phone, and it tells you about how you can support clean sport and what you need to know about doping. But, although we have all these developments, although we have this investment from UK Doping and other governing bodies, there you go. By the way, I'm using examples here only from British weightlifting. They come handy because I gave a talk to Loughborough 2 weeks ago to British weightlifters, their coaches in the Elite Athlete Center. And I thought of keeping those examples here because they reflect both coaching and athlete behavior, right? Both coaches and athlete behavior. There are a lot more examples in rugby, in cricket, football, tennis, in many sports actually. So here we have the former weightlifter who turned coach, and he was suspended because although he was banned several times, he carried on practicing coaching and actually selling banned substances. That was a few months ago. Weightlifter banned for 2 years for using substances. British junior weightlifting doping scandal again 2 years ago. And this is just a snapshot of what you get in the media, right? Although we recognize that athletes have to respect clean sport rules, although we recognize that coaches, they play a role, or there is an investment from the UK doping and other governing bodies, still there is an issue with doping behavior. Now, we're not saying that we found the silver bullet for it, but what we did is that we co-developed a program with coaches from across the globe. It's called CSI, Coaching for Sport Integrity. Integrity is the logo that we used. We were funded by the European Commission for almost £400,000 to develop this course in 6 different languages, as I said, in collaboration, close collaboration with coaches. So instead of one of the crucial differences with the existing UK doping program, for instance, UCAT talks about the rules and regulations. So you can see UCAT as the police in the world of sport, right? So they want to detect there is a problem, punish you. So they're policing, actually. We don't have this remit in education. We see ourselves as educators. So we're not really stigmatizing the athletes or coaches involved in doping, or have concerns about doping, or have thought about using doping, right? Or being involved in match fixing. Rather, we try to understand why they're doing it and help them, provide counseling, guidance, on how to avoid it. So a lot of our effort is in understanding how, instead of what is doping, but how to avoid it. Support education versus punishment. In case of doped athletes or athletes and coaches involved in any breaches of sport integrity, how to engage in harm minimization, risk reduction. This is something that the UK doping wouldn't do, because if they know that you're involved in doping, they have to punish you. Period. That's it. Otherwise, it's complicity. They collaborate with an outlaw in a way, and they would never support things like harmonization, risk reduction. It's like going to jail in a way. An updated global perspective, not just doping, match fixing, but a broader understanding of what is good governance in sport and what are the values of sport that we need to preserve. These are the coaching associations we work with, professional coaching associations of Hungary, Portugal, Finland, the International Council for Coaching Excellence, and 3 academic partners, Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, their sports science department there, UNEFS, which is the State University for Sports Sciences in Romania, and of course Sheffield Hallam University, Department of Psychology. So we developed 2 types of programs, and now we're in the phase of evaluating them. We've actually completed the evaluations. We have both university modules, a module actually consisting of 12 different sessions, including assessment. So this could be a credit-based module running in different semesters. It's both undergraduate and postgraduate students in sports sciences, sports psychology, or any related disciplines. And we also have material ready to be used, CPD for professional coaches. We distinguish them as pre-service coaches, in-service coaches. The in-service are the professionals, those who already work there in the field, and they don't really have time, so they would engage in quick, standalone, 45 minutes modules. That would be a MOOC as well. So we're seeking funding now to make this open and online. The topics we're covering have to do with doping, match fixing, whistleblowing behavior, good governance in sport and examples of bad governance. And in the CPD, we also have a set of modules of activities building skills for sporting integrity. So, these are the general features of the project. Now, I will be using doping as an example because I think that you can all relate to doping behavior. I think that you all know about doping. You've seen it in the media. You know what this is about. And I think that doping is more prevalent than match fixing, let's say, across the different types of sport, even the levels of sport. So, doping, what are we, how do we teach doping to our coaches through this project? We don't focus, as I said, to the strict liability principle, which is that the athletes and the coaches are responsible for doping, anti-doping rule violations. We go beyond that, so we try to understand why do they dope, what is the role of coaches specifically, and how can we implement, how we can integrate this knowledge in coaches' daily practice. And this is the same thing for whistleblowing behavior. So this stems from our research on the psychological drivers of doping behavior. This is just a kind of a mapping of the different factors that we know are related to doping intentions and actual behavior. Some of these factors are associated with whistleblowing against anti-doping rule violations, attitudes and social norms, motivation that has to do with achievement goals, it has to do with self-determination as well, motivation profiles, more reasoning, more disengagement that are highly relevant as well. And in some cases, personality factors. One example here specifically has to do with more disengagement. If you're familiar with the concept from Lazuras theory, social learning theory, social cognitive theory, actually what it says is that we find ways to justify and rationalize our behavior so that we morally disengage from what we did. In the context of doping behavior, I just did it because I would help my team in the context of team sport. If I don't do it, someone else will in the context of individual sports. Coaches might also engage in rationalizations and justifications of doping or not doing something to report doping like whistleblowing. So we have a lot of evidence actually about the role of moral disengagement. And this is how we put this into practice, right? So as I said, it's more like for coaches, and I'm talking about the professional coaches now, we have CPD type activities. Quick, very straightforward, and engaging. So that would be an example. I did this a few weeks ago with professional coaches. Let's say we have 20 people attending our workshop. Break this down into 4 different groups and we give them examples. So one case study, and I'll show them later, is intentional doping. The other is inadvertent doping through the use of contaminated nutritional supplements. The other group is working with whistleblowing against anti-doping rule violations. And the 4th group is working with leading the way. Once you know about doping, how you can become a clean sport ambassador. And then we have some common themes so that we bring the different groups together and they engage in interactive discussion. And you serve as a facilitator. If you're running this CPD activity, your role is just to facilitate. So they come together as a sort of community practice. You throw the ball and they start playing the game. This is the vignette we're using, for instance, one of the vignettes we have for one of the groups. This has to do with intentional doping. These are real cases. We've changed the names and the setting, we've changed the characteristics. We're talking about real cases that have come up through our research with the coaches. So coaches that encounter doping situations and how to react to that. So we're trying to have realistic situations here. So in that one, Jerome is 20 years old. He's an aspiring weightlifter, has been training hard for the last 12 months, and you think he's a natural talent with high potential. One day, Jerome says to you that he's been thinking about using oxandrolone, Anavar, one of the most popular anabolic steroids in strength sports. What do you do? So punish, go away. Essentially, we're assessing the coping style. We ask them to explain and justify their action plan, and they do this in a teamwork setting. So it's not just I will do that. They have to explain, justify what they're doing, reflect on their decisions. And the crucial thing here is how likely is that their action plan will help Jerome stay clean. Because they might say, let's just kick out Jerome and I don't care. All right, good. If you do this, or if you save it under the carpet, how will your behavior help Jerome stay clean? Because that's the key, actually, right? This is the case with inadvertent doping through nutritional supplements. Again, an athlete comes to you and says he wants to use a new supplement. You don't really know about the supplement or the brand. It might be a dubious one, contaminated with prohibited substances. Again, what do you do? Here we're also examining their knowledge. If their coaches, professional coaches, they need to abide by the rules of the World Anti-Doping Agency in the UK doping. So they must know that they have to check the supplements through Informed Sport, which is an online service actually where athletes can go log in, put in the batch of the supplement they're using and the brand, and then Informed Sport returns results which says we have tested this batch and we know it is clean, it doesn't dilute any prohibited substances. So these kind of checkings, do they really know about it? And if they do or if they don't, what would be their course of action? How would they advise their athletes to use nutritional supplements? That's an interesting one, because it's not about doping specifically. It's about a very common practice, which is using nutritional supplements. And it's okay, they're safe. Otherwise, they would be out there in the market. That's not the case, and this is what we're examining, and how coaches can actually reflect on the issue. That's a scenario about whistleblowing, a different vignette. So you find out that Mike, it's important here that we say an old friend and acquaintance of yours and a fellow coach. Because what we found in different countries, including the UK, is that coaches said, I know about doping cases, or even match fixing in football, but I won't do anything because they're my friends. I know these guys. And I happen to know what they do because they are my friends, so they would share this information with me. So we try to implement this kind, integrate this social pressure, social norm element in this vignette, and have coaches really reflect on what it means, because they have a decisional balance here, right, to play with. So would they just go out, roll the whistle, and report their friend and acquaintance? Or would they just say, I wouldn't create any waves, sweep under the carpet, just forget it? And then we try to have them, reflect on their decision. And again, the $1 million question, how likely is that your plan, what you decide to do, will protect your athletes and help them stay clean? Leading the way, you can approach, as Ian tells you, to define and to develop and evaluate an intervention against doping or match fixing, which are the factors that you would target. Why do you think they're important? And essentially with this vignette, we're trying to capture two things. One, did they really get it through the training that this is a multifaceted problem, that it has different dimensions? Is there again a punitive approach they're using, or do they try to really educate their athletes so that they really, it's not awareness raising, don't do drugs, it's bad. They will say that you shouldn't do it. Or do they engage in kind of coping skills and building empowerment in their athletes? And of course, yes, that one is about weightlifters, I think, but they can just adjust it, or we can adjust it to any sport. And a common themes for everyone. More direct vignettes here. So you have an athlete coming back from a 6-month suspension ban because of anti-doping rule violations. The athlete is coming back to you. How do you ensure that the athlete does not contaminate others, does not serve as a bad example for others to follow? That's a classic one when we talk with coaches. It's a concern for some of them who happen to have athletes who have breached the rules of anti-doping. And the other one, really relevant to the social pressures again, Dave is a fellow weightlifting coach. You know him for 5 years. One day he says that you can make money by selling prohibited substances. He can catch you in. He's been doing it for 3 years. You know the guy, you have personal connection. What do you do and why? Again, these are scenarios and vignettes that have come up from professional practice. And then we end the sessions with questions or key considerations like this one. So what do they think is their role in promoting sport integrity? In the case that I just gave you, the example in promoting clean sport, when we're talking about doping. Understanding the difference between awareness raising and education, where people really learn something and they build skills to cope with situations where they feel the pressure to dope. And most importantly, understanding the dynamics underlying doping use. So it's not that you're using doping because you're a bad person, which used to be the case 10 years ago, right? That used to be our understanding of athletes who dope or coaches involved in doping, but trying to understand the nuances in this behavior. Some people say yes, but the most important thing is to understand the rules. And I keep telling them, guys who dope know the rules perfectly well. Not well that they know how to bend them. Some of them are just unsuccessful and they get tested in the wrong time. And this is the only way UCAT is able to catch them, really. What we do is relevant to what the World Doping Agency is expecting from sport governing bodies, sport organizations, teams, and national and regional anti-doping organizations. They focus a lot on education. They have issued the International Standards of Education, and they expect that we do something about it. I have to say we're one of the few universities, higher education institutes in the UK, that is actively involved in doping with the expertise and the experience we have so far. So my idea, and I'm already working with people in my department, and this is the reason I want to have this talk with you guys, is that we would like to develop a CBT course. We would like to transform what we have here, because there is a lot of information, a lot of useful knowledge, into CPDs for coaches. Either people in service, professional coaches, or people studying for the coaching qualification. And we'd like to be one of the first universities that gives out a qualification, academic qualification, which is recognized and accredited on clean sport education specifically. Because in sport integrity, there are many. They're run by law departments, they talk about laws and regulations. In our case, we can have a niche market if we focus actually on promoting clean sport specifically. And this is the remit of the World Doping Agency. There is a lot of funding out there, and it's one of the things that the World Doping Agency and the International Olympics Committee are expecting to see. UCAT can only do that much because they don't have enough money. And UK Doping is focusing, as I said, in education indeed, but they're not a university, they're not an academic institution, and their remit is detection and punishment, mainly. Education, yes, but they're not academics, they're not educators. We are the educators, and we can handle the empirical evidence, I think, in better ways. This is another project we initiated last year, actually, January 2019. I'm the principal investigator, and I'm also the director of the project for the whole of Europe that's involved, the different countries that are involved here, 6 different countries. We're working in this project with anti-doping organizations, coaching federations, and academic institutions from 6 different countries and beyond, because we have the international representative of anti-doping organizations in this project too. So whatever we do goes to at least 4 to 5 different countries. One of the things that we try to achieve with that is build communities of practice. If you want to take part in our communities of practice that we're building right now, please feel free to contact me, email me. These are communities of practice with coaches or academic experts with an interest in doping behavior. And what we try to achieve is, 1, have a holistic approach, 2, expose people to the wealth of information that we have out there and applications of empirical knowledge, and 3, help them understand how they can relate this information to their daily practices. And more or less we want to create little living labs across the country or across the countries so that people engage in the discussion around clean sports and doping and ways to do this more effectively. And I think that's it. Thank you. Thanks for the invitation again and for your attention.
So that was an example of a CPD type
Yes,
workshop. How do you measure the impact of it? Because it's educated, is it it's preventative?
In a way, yes. It has to do with who you're working with, but yes.
Yeah, but when there's money involved, there's showing impact, funding involved. So how do you show the impact of whether there's...
Well, with Erasmus plus Sport, which is the funding scheme from the European Commission, they understand impact as people evaluating the training, for instance. So standard evaluations with a questionnaire or post-intervention interviews is enough for the EU. It's not enough for me, if you ask me. So we need to find ways to capture impact in different ways, like how do they change their practices, for instance, or what they do now that they have this tool as compared to other tools that they have. Let's say the UCAD online free of charge thing that they have. We're now in the process of doing it. Actually, we've just completed the evaluations in 6 different countries of the CSI project. But as I say, this is only one of the different projects that we're running. Another one has developed training specifically on whistleblowing. For instance, that's a different story. And in that one, we measured impact. The Cyprus, the Republic of Cyprus, they passed the legislation a few months ago based on 2 of our projects saying, 1, we need to implement whistleblowing policies and education across levels of sport in the country. 2, we need to implement anti-doping education in schools. And I'm now consulting with the Cyprus Anti-Doping Authority, helping them to develop this kind of educational program for the schools. So how this will be implemented in the curriculum and how physical education teachers can teach it more effectively.
It just fascinates me because I do a lot of work around sort of the environment, psychological safety, and I always think that whenever anything around whistleblowing is involved, then you have to have almost the safe space, the culture, if you like, in order to have that sort. So for me, it goes sort of more beyond that, the bigger, beyond just the whistleblowing, and it's sort of the bigger picture in order for those processes to, whether it's the athletes that are, doing the whistleblowing themselves, or whether it's a coach, or whether it's but there needs to be that safe, the culture
Definitely.
as a whole.
The whistleblowing culture, actually.
Yeah.
This is what we found when the nuances, as I was saying before, whistleblowing, because we did the studies in different cultures, and this is good because we had coaches in Romania saying, in Romania, if I blow the whistle, I'm dead the next minute, because it's an action against organized crime. Whereas we had more safeguarding, so to speak, in the UK. So the culture or the expectation around whistleblowing are different depending on which culture you're in. But one of the things we're doing now, I mentioned this project, Impact, with the community of practice. I've now developed a community of practice with legal experts, with Greg Ioannidis, who's the other Greek guy, the lawyer, who's doing a lot of anti-doping work. So we're working with a group of lawyers in the context of anti-doping law and other people interested in anti-doping. I think we're around 6-7 people. And we're now building a constitutional document, what is required by different sport organizations to promote whistleblowing from a legal perspective, which is, what are the processes, what are the procedures, who's responsible, which jurisdiction, is it the court, is it the national authority, is it WADA, for instance, and how people can use this document actually, to go out and engage people in whistleblowing. Because unless you have the infrastructure, which has to do with technical infrastructure as well. So is there a platform? Yes. How can I use it? Which are the safe ways? Is it anonymous? Who's responsible? Who will protect me? Things like that. So we try to give this information out.
Can you give us a sense, Lambros, of where you've accessed the coaches from, so those that started to come through your programme, where have you been able to promote the programme?
Yeah.
Into who?
Well, these guys have been really helpful. The International Coaching Excellence. These ones here, really. because this is an umbrella organization, and Sheffield Hallam University, I think the coaching Sheffield Hallam is affiliated with them in a way. They represent, I think, 30 different countries in coaching federations and associations, and this is one of the reasons we gave them a role, an active role in the project. We said, number one, we want you to be partners with us and co-develop the programs, but we want you to give us access to coaching federations in different countries. So Lazuras, Portugal, for instance, is the coaching association for all professional coaches in all sports. They represent all the different sports in Portugal, and it's a federation that has the football coaching association, the volleyball, the basketball. So we had access to the umbrella organizations in each country, and through that we had access.
So you've rolled it out already through these.
Yeah.
How many coaches have you worked with so far?
Well, that's an issue of resources actually. So I think we had 30 coaches interviewed to co-create the material in each country, in each of the different countries, and then we rolled it out to at least 70 coaches in each country. And that was mostly a matter of time and resources, to be honest, because Erasmus Plus gives you 24 months to do everything. And they want you to engage people in different activities. So, for instance, there was the ICC Global Conference in Japan 2 months ago. One of my colleagues was there, 350 delegates in Tokyo, Japan, all of them presidents of different national coaching federations or associations. They knew about the project, they engaged in activities in a workshop about knowing the project. And then it is expected that they can go back to the countries and utilize it in a way. For this reason, we have translated everything in 6 different languages. So the languages of the project, and this is a starting point. But as I said, with Erasmus Plus, it's like they give you money to develop the foundation. They would like to see that you have funding from them or from other sources to carry on and make a more impactful case, more sustainable. They expect us a sustainability plan, but they are aware that within 24 months, you can only provide the basis for a nice foundation. But working always with practitioners, otherwise it's a no-go for them.
So I'm just trying to get a sense of where we could align and support you on this. So have you been in touch with national governing bodies in the UK and British Olympic Association, etc.?
No. It was only in the UK. It was only through the ICC and British weightlifting in Loughborough. But again, it's a matter of resources and convenience, if I'm honest with you, because we wanted to develop the material in the way that we proposed. But right now that the project is over and we have the material that's been evaluated, we can roll it out. That's why I'm saying that, to me, the next level is have CPD offered through Sheffield Hallam to different people. Or just polish it and refine what we have and see how we make it more impactful in a way.
Yeah, just a couple of questions, just to clarify really. Having developed materials, is that face-to-face delivery or is it digital? So
well,
a digital platform, because the reach there and the resource, although significant to get it up and running, would be much less.
The development was face-to-face. So in all of these, the kind of co-creation, co-development, the interviews with them, me going out to British weightlifting or to the Elite Athlete Centre in Loughborough, it was all face-to-face. But the idea is we already have a platform developed by the Erasmus University of Thessaloniki where everything is uploaded and we have modular guides. It's like, doing your PT cert for Hallam, right? So we follow their practices actually. We have modular guides, supplementary materials, lecture notes, and we tell people that, this is a way, it's like a syllabus, a guide for the lecturers in a way, which are meant to be coaches. If you want to teach your athletes about those issues, this is a way to do it. Not be critical, judgmental, engage with them and things like that. And we tell them how to do it step by step. But as I said, that's still developing.
Okay, so and the second one is just to get a sense of what level of coaches you've been working with.
Well, they're all professional. The ones that are professional, the end service coaches, they had, I think, at least 7 years of experience in the different countries, more or less. Of course, you have variations. And we targeted coaches that have involvement in national or international competition. So they're working with teams or individual athletes in case of individual sport.
Okay, so there might be an opportunity to segment that market and look at, I'm just thinking about the students on the course in the department now, who are very junior, relatively junior, most of them, through to the elite level that you might be different types of different types of online courses for the different markets?
For the university, we have semester-long modules, in a way, including assessment. So it's more academic in its character and its approach and the focus. This is way more academic than the CPD. This is more practical, more applied. And to me, I think that was the difficult part, because as an academic, I can relate to that. But when I'm talking to coaches in Romania, Finland, Hungary, Greece, whatever, I need to relate to their daily practice. That was the most difficult part, I have to say. But for that one, I think we have room for doing a lot of things.
So the one on the right there, have you had any conversations with the course leader for the MSc Advanced Sports Coaching, or any of the
Not
coaches
yet.
on that
Not yet.
course? Okay,
Not
so
yet.
that might be
Yeah.
something to pick up on.
That's why I wanted to give a talk today,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah. And I'm really honest and open with you guys, all right? People say, oh, it's PSP, you know, you should sell out our ideas. I don't care about politics or things like that, right? It's science, we can all benefit, there is a lot of money out there. I'm working mostly with sports science guys. Psychologists can't really relate to what I do because they think it's a sporting issue. I say it's not a sporting issue, it's a global issue, it's a societal issue, right? And as psychologists we can contribute in this way, then we need to work with sports science who can contribute in this way, in doing that. And it's just one project. Right now I'm having 6 different projects actually around the clean sport education thing. There was another thing.
Whistleblowing is one form of detection, but another form of detection is looking for suspicious performances. Do you have any sense as to which is the more effective? I'll give you 2 examples. This is where we might want to work together. For Beijing, we did a forecast of how we thought China would perform. The evidence said maybe 46 gold medals. In the end, China won 51. Subsequently, 3 of those were stripped for infringements on doping in weightlifting. And closer to home, Michelle Smith, I think in 1996, the Irish swimmer, came back with 3 gold medals around the neck with performances that had just come from nowhere. So from within, whistleblowing, or from outwit, looking for suspicious performances. Are there 2 sides of the same coin? Is one better than the other?
Different approaches. I would see it as a cube, right? As a multifaceted thing. So detecting performances definitely is one of the ways of doing it. Whistleblowing, if you ask me personally, my opinion about whistleblowing, we're not ready yet, at least at a global scale. And the reason is that we don't have the infrastructure in different countries. Even in the UK, we have a hotline, you call UCAT, and you report doping. Who tells you that this cannot be hacked? How can you be sure that people will not be accessing this information? How is this stored? Let's say that you're in Beijing and you notice that there is an infringement, anti-doping rule violations, let's say in Russia or in China, and you want to say to someone, and you say, oh God, I'm in Beijing, I'm a British athlete, they're Chinese or Russian or whatever you name them, who has the jurisdiction? What the doping agency says, use my platform, speak up, it's an international platform in English and in French, you just submit your report and then we'll take it on from there. Number 1, do I speak French or English fluently so that I can file in a report about the anti-doping rule violation? Am I protected? Whose jurisdiction is it when I'm in a foreign soil, for instance? So whistleblowing, I can see it as a promising start, but we have a lot of things to do before we actually tell to our athletes or coaches, go on, you know, chop chop, do it, blow the whistle. Because we know from Grigory Rodchenkov, for instance, the guy who ran the Russian anti-doping laboratory, that he's now under FBI witness protection program. He walks around with a full face mask because they will kill him. So right now, it's a very promising start with whistleblowing. I'm not sure that we're there already. But to answer your point about the different sides of the same coin, well, performance enhancement with legitimate means is one thing, right? The way to go about it might differ. My focus and the focus of these programs is on prevention. So it's not about being, developing economic models or performance models saying this is suspicious, let's go and catch these guys. That's one way, definitely. But my concern is how do we train young people from the school, right, from the school years, how to stay clean or how to cope with any kind of temptations or decision balance when it comes to pressures to do. And these pressures may come from coaches, fellow athletes, information they share in social media from different sources. So I would say,
the state.
yes, definitely. Or the state. You know, we're about to publish a paper. We just actually did the revisions. We have data from more than 2,000 professional elite athletes, 6 or 7 countries, I can't remember, I think it's 6 countries, funded by the IUC. And we have Russian athletes in there as well. We have 300 Russian athletes. And what they're saying, 95% of them, they don't trust the anti-doping system in their country. They don't trust global anti-doping policies because they think, and this came out from the interviews that we had, and not just the questionnaires, about the legitimacy of anti-doping. Because they think that their state was able to do that because there was no control from other parties. No one really helped Russian sport not to be dirty in a way. No one really helped them intervene, and help them be clean. And what happened last week, the ban from whatever, 4 or 5 years on the Russian sport, it's unfair for the clean Russian athletes. It's not all of them are using doping substances, but they live in a toxic environment. But that's exactly my point. How do you cope with the pressures if you're brought up in this environment? Any questions? Other questions? I'd love to work with you guys, really. There is a lot of funding out there. It's only me in the psychology department doing it. It can't be a one-man show because, you can only stretch yourself that much. Otherwise, you need collaborations. I have collaborations outside the UK. I'm building collaborations inside the UK, but before I build collaborations with other institutions, I like to build collaborations with what's happening in-house. I think we have a fantastic health and well-being sports science department. I think we're doing a brilliant job. I've talked with Rob Copeland before in the Advanced Wellbeing Research Center. We might have a joint event next year promoting Project Impact. So that would be a public engagement event. I would love to do it in the Advanced Wellbeing Research Center. I've talked with Rob, with Chris Lowe. Fine, we can do those things, but I'd like to see more strategic partnerships between our departments because I think that we can do a lot of things and get funding.
I think one next step, Lambros, would be to have the meetings with the course links, the undergrad and master's programme, because it's probably 2-3 steps. The first step would be to look at the curriculum and inform the curriculum, certainly. But, looking across the partnerships we've got with professional sport and Olympic sports and the IS through Joe, etc. So we'll certainly do that in the new year.
Definitely. One of the obstacles I often find is that people ask me, why should we come to you? What's so different from UK doping? If we go to UK doping, we tick the boxes, we don't want you. Not the case. It has to do with who you're talking with. If you're talking with sports that have been tainted with doping, like British weightlifting, for instance, or rugby, UK doping is not really helpful to them. Because, they keep close on, they're more like, don't do it again, we're watching you. Of course, I would try to empower them in a way, but with sport like swimming, for instance, or diving, because I happen to work with people from these sports, the English teams, GB swimming, they're more like, we work perfectly well with anti-doping, we can doping, no need to do something else besides what they provide. So there might be an obstacle there of how we actually approach it. But I think that what gives us a niche market is that we're academics, and we can provide academic qualification. No one is providing academic qualification for kids, sport, education right now. So even though they have the online, whatever, certified program in UK doping, it's not an academic one. It doesn't have the academic credentials. And I don't see any problem partnering with UK doping and having a program that is endorsed by them.
Any other comments? Okay, let me just say on behalf of our academy, thank you for spending the time.
Thank you.
Sorry, probably came at the wrong time. I know everyone's very busy with assessments. So.
But we're right people.
Maybe. But certainly it leads to further conversation, so that was very helpful.
Thank you, thank you.
If you do meet with the course teams, we should chat, because we have the sport and human performance research as well in it, and you might, possibly come into one of the meetings and chat to the team about ideas and
Research ideas.
yeah, both where to go
I'm
next.
more than happy to give another talk, open talk, seminar, lecture to your
You do
students,
a
to
more
your staff,
informal,
to
you
anyone.
do a more informal.
Whatever you want.
Yeah.